Hello everyone. Before I clock off on holiday, I wanted to make a short video to give you a few essential tips and tricks if you are planning to use Verkada cameras in conjunction with our alarms portfolio you see here behind me. Just as a quick recap, we have the option for both a wired alarm panel but also a wireless portfolio that covers not only door contacts but also panic buttons, glass break sensors, water leak, PIR, and also wireless outputs. And the beauty of this is that you as a customer can associate a camera with a particular sensor and then use the included Verkada video verification team that, based on the settings you have in command, will be able to have a look what's happening in real time and decide whether or not to silence the alarm if there's actually nothing happening, or notifying you and furthermore calling the authorities. But do remember that dispatching authorities in most regions does come with financial implications, and if you're living in a country like in the UK, for example, calling the police a few times to the same address will result in them not showing up again, even if you have an emergency situation. With that in mind, let's think about a couple of important tips for the cameras that are used for video verification. First of all, if you're just deploying this, I would highly recommend you using the newest generation series. So that's anything that's ending up in 2, and furthermore focus on the 4K models if you have the budget to do so. The reason being is that the latest generation cameras can pick up people and vehicles much further away than the last ones. And going for a 4K model means that there's much more pixel density, thus the camera is able to discern objects and classify them even further down the line. You could in theory use optical zoom, although I personally don't recommend it because as you zoom in you do get that clarity at distance. However, you're kind of losing of the angle by minimizing it, so you might end up having to deploy multiple cameras. So the second tip, it is self-explanatory, and you're wondering, hey, that sounds very basic, but you'll be surprised on how many people actually don't do it. And that is keeping those cameras clean. Over the life cycle of the device, there will probably be rain and dust and snow accumulating, and what's going to happen is that will impact the camera from seeing. It might be just the dirt on the dome itself, or might actually be the IRs of the camera at night reflecting back and stopping the camera from doing its proper job. So if you're deploying these outside, if you're deploying this in rough scenarios, either use something like a bullet camera, because it being encased and having that shape keeps it a bit more safe from the elements. But if you're looking to use, for example, a dome, try to use a mount such as the L bracket, which will keep it downwards and drain the water from it, or the new hood. So for example, snow can accumulate on the hood instead of the glass dome itself. And if you have the option to put it under a ledge, even better, right? Thirdly, sounds again very obvious, but sometimes is missed, is actually assigning the right camera to the sensor. If you don't logically tie in a camera with a particular sensor, there's not going to be any video verification. The system won't be able to say, hey, I sense that this camera is nearby this sensor. It doesn't work like that. It will actually require you to manually do so. And when you do so, make sure that the camera is able to see what's happening. Let's say I have a camera in this room, I have actually a window on the other side, and the camera is pointing the other way around. Let's say somebody smashes the window, the glass break sensor here is triggering an alert, but when our video verification team is looking, they don't see anything. They don't see the glass being broken, etc. So they'll just silence the alarm thinking that nothing happened. So don't forget to associate the camera, and when you do so, make sure that the camera can actually see the event that is happening. My last tip for you is to make sure that when you're choosing these cameras and you're using them and their people analysis as a trigger to define the areas of interest. And why that is important is that depending on your license, you have a certain limit of verified events a month. That can be either 100 or 1,000 at a particular location. So in theory, if you set this wrong and every time there is movement that's not actually related to your site, this might get video verified and might take one of the either 100 or 1,000 credits that you have. Why this is very important is we do give you 2 months grace in case you go over this limit, but the third month we will only verify the amounts of events that are tied on your particular license and nothing else. Everything else will result into an alarm being raised and possibly the authorities being dispatched for absolutely no reason. Initially, we had the area of interest, and now we also have the options for line crossing and loitering, which, by the way, are only available on the latest generation cameras because they do use the latest umbrella chipsets. So I do recommend, if you have the possibility, do use them and make sure that you don't go over the limit of the video verifications. Very important document that came out just a few weeks ago is the user guide for professional monitoring, and I'll make sure I'll leave a link in the description below. But you should definitely check this out because it gives you a clear idea on not only how the system works, how our agents respond, and what all the settings mean all together in a single document. So as you actually scroll down, you'll get an understanding of, first of all, the licensing tiers we have. As I mentioned before, you do get a basic option that does not have video verification, but then if you want your events to be video verified, you either go for the standard, which to be honest should be fitting a lot of people, or the premium that has about 10 times more events volume a month. Looking into custom for really specialized use cases that you should probably get in touch with us to discuss. Onwards, you'll get an idea of the actual workflow with and without video verification enabled. Get an idea of how to set up your own custom rules to make sure you get the desired outcome when one of our agents is verifying the information. The response types, how to set different schedules, and very importantly, as we discussed, the expected distance each camera will be able to pick up people or vehicles, depending also on the level of zoom if they have a very focal model. There is an extensive FAQ at the bottom, but as always, if something does not make sense or you want to find out more, do drop me a question in the comments and I'll come back to you as soon as I can.